So I'll start off by saying greetings from across the ocean. My name is D. Bernard Webster. I am the co-lead and director of the Center for Entrepreneurship at the New York Institute of Technology, currently called New York Tech. We're located in central Manhattan, right by Columbus Circle. We're a private institution, and the work that we do really is centered around the integration of technology. Our goal is to kind of propel our students into the world of work fully equipped to be contributors and leaders to the new industries that are developing and rapidly being disrupted by technology. So we want to increase their competency, their capability, and also their creativity to innovate in these new industries. So that's our institution. You can find out more about us at nyitentrepreneurship.org. So we have several schools at New York Tech. My school is the School of Management. So you have mostly students that are learning, that are pursuing their MBA or their undergraduate degree, really understanding marketing. But as a School of Management, we fully understand that technology is very difficult to get away from. So in order to do your job as a marketer, in many ways, in order to reach the widest audience, and also to get the best results in terms of management and measurement of impact, you've got to use technology. Through the Center for Entrepreneurship, though, our work is non it's not agnostic. It is agnostic in the sense that we work with students from the School of Engineering, the School of Arts and Sciences, and we really try to focus on faculty and students that are innovating whatever industry they're in. My main role as the entrepreneur in residence, I started out at NYT as the entrepreneur in residence, is really to connect the campus to industry. So when we talk about innovation in an academic context, it's usually it's definitely robust. We have brilliant faculty who are really looking at emerging ecosystems and how they're managed. So the research is really important to our work. However, industry, as you know, is constantly changing. And so we've got to be able to infuse that research with what's happening currently on the ground, how industries are being disrupted by new technologies, what the world of work is looking for in terms of when a graduate exits their program, how are they integrating their skills and their knowledge into the context of a business that needs their expertise and their talent. So my primary role is working and being a bridge to industry. That includes connecting students to real world entrepreneurial opportunities. That includes mentorship. It includes networking events. It also includes internship and work opportunities. I think the goal is really to build the entrepreneurial mindset. So it's very broad, and we look at that in several ways, right? So to build an entrepreneurial mindset, to think like an entrepreneur, you've got to actually connect and have a network of entrepreneurs. So that's one of the first things we do. We do a lot of CEO panels, and we connect our students to these entrepreneurs where they get to share their entrepreneurial story. And you'll find that the difference between the person sitting in the seat and the person sitting on stage is not that much, right? But because of their success and where the student is, they think that there's a huge chasm between the two of them. So we try to create these very intimate spaces so that the student can see that the entrepreneur that has achieved a certain level of success has gotten there really by making very specific decisions throughout their journey, right? Throughout their entrepreneurial journey.
Mhm.
It could be a career as a student or career as a in a workforce, but they made very specific strategic decisions that led them to where they are. So we try to close that gap and we create those opportunities. Then when we have students that are looking to for investment, we absolutely connect them to investment forums. We've flown students out to Silicon Valley where they got a chance to really see investment forums that work, talk to investors, so they have a better understanding of the investor mindset. There's an assumption that young people are the only ones that are innovating and creating new companies. And what we found is that the research shows that older entrepreneurs, men and women who are perhaps a little bit more seasoned, have gone into the world of work, have seen how people work collaboratively in teams, identify some gaps in the marketplace. They're launching new ventures at a really tremendous clip. So it's not all just young people. In fact, I find most young people are really just trying to find their way in the world. And I think it's different from my generation. I'm Generation X, but because their generation, millennials and zennials. That's I hope that's the right the way to phrase it. They are inundated with information in ways that we were not, and so it perhaps takes them a bit longer to find their path and their passion because they see everything like a buffet. So there's so many different things and so many directions that they can choose that sometimes it can be overwhelming and they find a hard time to find their niche. So yeah, it's not an isolated problem. We definitely have a challenge there, motivating our students and getting them really excited about venturing out, taking a risk, and starting something of their own. I'd say universities that have there are some models that do it well. I'm not going to say that the model doesn't work, but universities tend to their structure sometimes is an impediment to true innovation. So universities have uh, technology transfer clauses that allows them to um, take ownership of any IP that's developed on campus if it's done as a part of a faculty research and what have you. I think those are problematic. I think that they get in the way or they discourage where innovation should happen, which is on a college campus, at least in a formal structured sense. I mean, it's already happening. The kids are in their dorm rooms building new technologies, and they're networking amongst themselves, and they may work themselves off of campus and not graduate because they've created the next big technology movement. And so that's a loss for the university if that happens.
Mhm.
That if that individual doesn't graduate and leaves the campus, it doesn't really help that university. So I think we have to rethink it. um, I think the goal should not be to create startups again on campus, but to continue to foster what's already happening organically. Build up the entrepreneurial mindset, help students understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, how to talk to VCs, how to talk to venture capitalists, if that is even a pathway for them. I think we have to teach on our campuses or qualify what is a venture concept. Is it scalable? Is it defensible? Is it novel? Is it rare? Does it have utility? Is the right timing in the market? I think we have to continue to teach those fundamentals, and once you do that, you'll find students uh, find the right type of business concept to kind of develop, and that positions them to the point where they might be ready to work
Mhm.
with a VC. But it requires coaching, it requires hand holding, and a real connectivity to the venture capital ecosystems to really inform the students what is the kind of company we would fund, right? Because if your goal is VC, but you don't know what they are looking for, then it really doesn't make any sense. So I think it has to be practical. We have to connect VCs to the process. We can't make assumptions. We have to hear directly from that community what they are looking for, what they would be open to funding, and then real partnership and collaboration along the lines of the development of the curriculum, so that
Mhm.
students are creating concepts that fall in that line. If that's where we're looking to go, the goal is to expand the network of the student who's on campus. So, what better individual to connect into than someone that has walked in their shoes, walked the halls that they have walked, and then gone on and launched from the campus into the world of work or entrepreneurship successfully. So, the keeping alumni engaged is critically important. I think the ways that we do it, as any university runs into this issue, is again adopting best practices that you might see in the industry. So not just sending out letters asking them for donations, but engaging with them on social media, creating, groups here. We have, I don't know if it's reached your shores yet. There's an app called Clubhouse, which is a podcasting, almost a virtual podcasting app where you can just have conversations. It's a
On
brilliant
demand.
piece of technology.
It's on demand.
It's on demand. Yes, absolutely. In real time. And you can have hosted conversations. You can have panel conversations. And it's a brilliant way of getting people engaged that might not have a lot of time to maybe meet up on campus. You have to find ways to reach hard to reach individuals. If
Mm.
someone is successful, they're hard to reach for a reason. So you've got to adapt your methods and methodologies to reach those individuals in a very modern way and practical way. Well, I don't want to speak of fads. I want to speak of where we think real traction and real impact is going to happen. Um, so I say this not in a pejorative way around. Uh, let's just talk about virtual reality. I think virtual reality is several years away in terms of widespread user adoption. Unfortunately, it's because many of the companies that are leading the space are really building products that, in ultimately, once they're released, they're expensive, which creates a barrier to adoption. In reality, your cell phone has all the capabilities of both virtual and augmented reality in them, and it would be interesting to see startups really start to work around the pre-existing technology that we already have to really accelerate our adoption in that. From a university standpoint, we spent years when augmented was initially introduced. We spent time researching and projecting how people would use it in a consumer-based context. You had companies that would use augmented as a way to increase engagement, to increase as a conversion funnel, to get people to utilize technology in a way to enhance their ordinary everyday experiences. And you're seeing some traction, but not enough that I would think represent seismic shifts. I think where we're seeing a real opportunity, I think, has a lot to do with the blockchain. And I'm not, I'm not on the NFT bandwagon. I still think that there is a lot to be said about that model and why people get in. But I think the idea of decentralization is synonymous with innovation. I think the idea that innovation only comes from one source is problematic. And so when you think about a true ecosystem that's innovated, it's not just the universities that are innovating. It's not just the municipalities that are innovating. It's the individuals who are tinkering, who are making, the makers, the marketers, the folks who are on the consumption side, folks who are on the media side. I think that is what drives innovation. I think so. The idea of a decentralized infrastructure that's not the internet, it really represents something beyond the internet. Web 3.0, that's what everyone's talking about. I think is where the real playground and new frontier is going to happen. And you'll start to see, any service that can be operating off the blockchain to decentralize, to uncouple people from traditional networks, I think is where you're going to see a lot of movement and a lot of traction. Of course, data science, data visualization, recommendation engines. You'll see a lot of larger companies really utilize those technologies because they can afford the data scientists, they can afford the R&D, and they're going to just use that to create more opportunities they'll call it engage. The consumer might find it to be super intrusive, but they're using those technologies to predict consumer behavior. I think you're going to find more consumers getting really disenchanted with big tech companies getting more involved in their day to day. And so this uncoupling that's really embodied in the decentralized networks of blockchain and again, cryptocurrency is just one technology. It's really just important to really look at it as a crypto economy and and it has implications again for what I talked about, the metaverse and augmented, but the foundation of it is this idea of a decentralized frontier that represents the blockchain. So it's twofold. I've got stake in the game as a minority business owner. In New York City, people of color make up, particularly black entrepreneurs or black citizens, make up 20% of the population, but own only 2% of the businesses that are running in New York City. And so I'm proud to say that our city has identified that as a real issue of equity and inclusion, and has put really their money where their mouth is. So they're not just talking about diversity, they've been funding programs that specifically address these historically disadvantaged groups. And if you want to see real traction in that space, there has to be leadership at the municipal level that says we do better as a community, as a culture, as a city, where all members are able to contribute and really be able to work beyond some of the historical barriers that have been erected due to the horrible vestiges of racism and discrimination. And so our city right now is running a program called Black Entrepreneurship Initiative. My company, my independent company, is actually managing a portfolio of programs along those lines, including the mentoring program. And so we are responsible for connecting Black entrepreneurs to mentors, subject matter experts. Again, because we've seen that the main gaps isn't really talent, isn't really capability, it's opportunity. It's access to mentors or people who are like them, people of color, who have gone on and achieved a certain level of success in workforce or in their career as an entrepreneur, and being able to have access to talk to them, access to investors, access to affordable workspaces. So it's a very robust program that New York City has launched its inaugural program. We're proud to be a part of it. And we think that it will be a model for other cities around the world that are serious about getting their minority populations to participate in innovation on an equitable level. Lastly, I'll say McKinsey did a report on a study of the economic impact where uh, diversity and equity and inclusion really, the initiatives that are in place really started to take hold, and you started to see more inclusion, more participation by minority owned firms, contributing to the local economy, contributing to the workforce. They saw a tremendous impact in the GDP, in the productivity of a culture, of an ecosystem, of even a country or state, when all members are empowered in that way. So I think there's real economic benefit to it. It's morally correct, and it's also economically, it makes sense.